Welcome back to the U.S. Navy History Podcast. I am the Dale, and I am joined by De Christoph. Hey, De Christoph.
Hello, the Dale. How is everybody doing? Oh, they
As far as
can't.
I know, they're fine.
Yes, thank you for answering on behalf of all of our listeners. I appreciate that.
I mean, unless they say something different to me personally, I can only assume that they're fine.
There are ways to let us know. Find out how at the end of the episode.
His favorite time.
Oh yes, I almost every time get to do it right. Almost.
Yes. So we're going to jump back into World War I, if you're okay with that.
I am okay with that.
All right, so let's get underway. So the thing we teased last time was we were going to talk a tiny little bit about the Pope
Oh yes.
and what the Pope did for the war effort. So, the Pope, who was the Pope during this time?
Oh man, I was afraid you were going to ask that. Not Pius the 12th, because that was World War II, I think. I'm going to say John Paul the First.
You would be wrong.
Oh, you made it sound like, okay. Who is it then?
It was Pope Benedict the 15th.
Oh, right, of course.
Of course, you should have known that.
You know, I should have said Hilarious the First, because there was a Pope Hilarious, which I find hilarious.
I've never heard of Pope Hilarious. You're gonna have to. You're gonna have to.
I'll submit a
have to
book
teach
report
me.
by the end of the episode.
Okay, it will be on my desk.
Okay, done. Consider it done.
All right. So around August 15th of 1917, Pope Benedict made a peace proposal. This proposal had some stipulations. One of them was no annexations at all.
Oh, wow.
Everybody goes back to pre-war map borders. He also said no indemnities, except to compensate for severe war damage in Belgium and parts of France and Serbia.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. He proposed a solution to the problems of the Alsace-Lorraine, the Torrentino, and the Trieste. He had proposed restoration of the Kingdom of Poland. He proposed to have Germany pull out of Belgium and France. He also said that Germany's overseas colonies to be given back to Germany. He wanted everybody to just disarm. He wanted a Supreme Court of arbitration to settle future disputes between nations.
Wow.
He wanted the freedom of the seas. He wanted to abolish all retaliatory economic conflicts. So no sanctions.
Yeah. This is quite the wish list. Continue.
Yeah. And he said no reparations because everybody has received severe damage.
You know,
So there's no point.
right. That he's basically saying, "Hey, y'all, I know it's been bad. Let's just pretend this didn't happen. We'll go back home. We'll get our stuff settled. And by the way, let's have some supreme arbiter that can keep us from doing this again." And if that were possible, that'd be great. I'm not sure who would enforce the freedom of the seas or what kind of international court would be unbiased. But
it would be there with a Pope. I'm sure that's what would have happened.
I mean, yes, probably. That would have been pretty subtly very large power grab. I mean, to have the fates of nations in the hands of the Pope. Again, I guess we're going back to the way things were.
Yes. But of course, to be fair, everybody was going for a power grab at this point
Yeah,
in
it's
time
true.
anyway.
That's true.
So why not the Pope?
Yeah, at least the no annexation and his solution was remarkably adult. You know what I for lack of a better term, I can't, and somewhat like pretty wise when you think about the consequences of reparations at the end of this war and what happened after that. It was good that he's proposing, yeah, let's not do that.
Of course, everybody ignored him.
Right. That sounds about right. You're in the middle of getting your dudes slaughtered, and it's like, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to win so I can get their stuff.
Yeah. It's like, it's just Pope. We're not doing that. I'm not losing everything I just took over.
Right.
All right, so we're going to move on to the German Spring Offensive. So Ludendorff, he came up with some plans, codenamed Operation Michael, for the 1918 offensive on the Western Front. This offensive sought to divide the British and the French forces with a series of feints and advances. The German leadership was hoping to end the war before all these brand new, fresh U.S. troops arrived. So this started on March 21st, 1918, with an attack on British forces near St. Quentin. The Germans achieved an advance of 37 miles.
Whoa.
That is huge. And that is the biggest advance that's happened.
Yeah. They were fighting over meters with the trench warfare. That's unheard of almost.
Yeah. The British and French trenches were penetrated using new infiltration tactics. By the trained units that were specially trained for this, called stormtroopers.
Oh, that's where that came from.
That is where that came from.
Interesting.
Before this, the attacks had been characterized by very, very long artillery bombardments, and then followed by massed assaults.
Okay.
In this new offensive, Ludendorff used artillery briefly, and then sent small groups of men to weak points. They attacked command and logistic areas and bypassed points of huge troop buildups.
It's pretty brilliant.
Yeah. And then the heavily armed infantry destroyed all these isolated positions. And of course, this was very surprising, and they used that surprise very effectively.
Right.
So the front moved to within 75 miles of Paris. Three of the heavy railway guns, the Krupp, fired 183 shells on Paris.
Whoa, that's some serious range.
These were the Krupp railway guns. You remember these things?
Not particularly.
The huge naval guns on
yes,
rails.
Yes. Sorry, it just took me a minute to register. Yes, those are the ones where they had to calculate, I think, and take in the rotation of the Earth as part of the calculations. They were
not
that
the
massive.
Rotation, the curvature.
Curvature, yes.
Which is exactly how naval warfare is calculated.
Oh, I guess when you're dealing with distances of that scope, that makes sense.
Distances which they were able to get because of just the massive size of these guns.
That's nuts. Imagine being in Paris thinking the fight is it's 75 miles away. I'm nervous, but I'm not afraid. And then all of a sudden, some shells hit where you're living. That's terrifying.
Yeah. So there was many evacuations. So this initial offensive was so successful that the Kaiser Wilhelm II declared March 24th a national holiday.
Wow.
Yeah. It also made many Germans think that the victory that they had been fighting for was very near.
Makes sense. I would definitely think that. You're on a roll.
Mhm. But of course, after heavy fighting, the offensive stopped. It was, uh, they hit a wall. They did not have any motorized artillery, so they were not able to consolidate their gains. And they also figured out that resupplying that new 37 miles was very difficult.
Oh, right. They don't have the infrastructure that they had.
Yeah. And not only that, but between those 37 miles are a huge amount of shore torn or shell torn
just landscape
terrain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's like, how do you get a truck through all those holes?
Right. And especially if you're hitting the weak points and you're penetrating through, you're still going to have on either side pretty substantial troops of the opposition. That's a really delicate situation.
Yeah. It's hard. So after Operation Michael, Germany launched Operation Georgette. This was against the northern English Channel ports. The Allies this time were able to stop them pretty quickly, and the Germans only had very little gains.
Well, I was just thinking about these code names. So Operation Michael and Operation Georgette. These are not as, I don't know, illustrious as some other operations you've heard of before. Or maybe it's just me. Did they just go around and say, "Hey, you, what's your name? Michael? Good. That's the name of this offensive." It's just
Well, I don't specifically know, but I'm sure it has some sort of meeting to the higher ups.
yeah, right. But it should be like devastating blitz or Operation Guillotine or something. Whoa, yes, we're really gonna get him. But I guess maybe if a spy saw the word Michael, they wouldn't think twice about it. And it's like, oh, it's just a letter to some guy, Michael. Don't need to worry about these plans. I don't know. Sorry.
Maybe.
My mind started spinning. I shouldn't have interrupted. Continue. I'm curious to learn more.
Yeah, you do look a bit dizzy.
Once I get going, watch out. Anyway, I'll slow myself down. You keep filling me in on how Georgette was not so great.
Well, we're actually going to move on to the Southern German Army.
Oh, okay.
This was Operations Blücher and York. And this was a push towards Paris. After that, Germany launched Operation Marne on July 15th, and this was an attempt to encircle Reims. This resulted in a counterattack, which started the 100 Days Offensive. This was the first successful Allied offensive of the war. So by July 20th, the Germans had retreated across the Marne to where they started.
Oh, that's got to be frustrating.
Yeah. And at this point, Germany never regained the initiative.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The German casualties between March and April were 270,000,
That's massive.
including their highly specialized trained stormtroopers.
Hmm.
And back on the home front, Germany was falling apart. Anti-war marches started becoming more and more frequent. And because of this, morale in the army started dropping out.
I could see that. Yeah, they're fighting everybody, it seems. I guess except the Russians at this point.
Yeah. Also, the industrial output in Germany was about half of what it was in 1913.
Hmm. That is significant.
Very significant.
I didn't really realize, I guess, of course, this would be the case, but that's interesting that there were anti-war protests in Germany during this time. That's not something I anticipated at all.
Well, during this conflict, they weren't having to deal with the Nazis.
Yeah.
So the violence and that the Nazis did against their own people as well
Right. I mean,
did
they,
not
they-
stop all that.
well, I guess let me put it this way. With monarchies, they can still drop the hammer. And so, like a Russia or a Germany at this point, or even an England, I would have been a little unsure because the royal leadership would know, hey, this is hurting morale. Let's stop it so that we can still support the war effort because we have specific goals. You know what I mean? So,
Right, but also in not too far in the past, you've had monarchies being toppled by those same people because of doing that.
yeah,
Like in Paris.
true. That's right. That's a good point.
And Russia's was just going through this right now.
That's true. It's like, hey, look at those guys. Let's not do that.
Their royal family just got slaughtered.
Right. You know what? Great counterpoint. Gotcha.
Oh, thank you. It happens every once in a while. Okay, so that's going to bring us to the 100 Days Offensive. This began on August 8th, 1918 with the Battle of Amiens. This battle involved over 400 tanks and 120,000 British, Dominion, and French troops. And by the end of its first day, a gap 15 miles long had been created in the German lines. Ludendorff referred to this day as the Black Day of the German army.
Wow. That's definitely a change from their national holiday that happened not too long ago.
Yeah. After a advance of around 14 miles, that is when the Germans were able to recover. And this first battle was done on August 12th. So instead of continuing this battle past the point of initial success, as the Allies had done a number of other times in the past, the Allies shifted attention elsewhere. The Allies leaders realized finally that to continue a attack after the resistance had hardened was just a waste of lives. So it was better to try to turn the line instead of trying to just roll over it.
What does that mean, to turn the line?
To go, so they've pushed that 14 miles.
Uh-huh.
So let's hit another area and push that.
Oh, okay. So yeah. Let's not keep pushing in one area because we'll meet more resistance.
Right, because the Germans have stiffened the resistance, which means they've brought in more people from other areas.
Right.
To stop that advance. So let's take advantage of these other weaker parts now.
Okay.
And get there.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so they started to undertake attacks in quick order to take advantage of successful advantages on the flanks. And they broke them off when each attack lost the initial gains. So after the offensive began, Ludendorff said, quote, "We cannot win the war anymore, but we must not lose it either."
Okay, I'm trying to figure out where his mindset is. Yes. But usually that's one of the two outcomes when you're in a war. So I'm not sure where his mind was.
His mind is of hopefully getting a stalemate.
Just like an armistice. It's like, hey, we're
done. What everybody has, everybody keeps.
yeah. Okay. He is very far into the interior of France, so I could see that.
He actually offered his regs. He offered to quit to the Kaiser, and the Kaiser was like, "No, that's not going to happen." Quote, "I see that we must strike a balance. We have nearly reached the limit of our powers of resistance. The war must be ended." So on August 13th at Spa, Hindenburg, Ludendorff, the Chancellor, and Foreign Minister Heinz all agreed that the war could not be ended militarily. So on the following day, the German Crown Council decided that victory in the field was just impossible now. Austria and Hungary warned that they could only continue the war until December. And Ludendorff was like, "Okay, guys, peace table now."
Right.
Prince Ruprecht warned Prince Maximilian of Baden, quote, "Our military situation has deteriorated so rapidly that I no longer believe we can hold out over the winter. It is even possible that a catastrophe will come later." So while all this was happening on the German side, the British and Dominion forces launched the next phases of their campaign with the Battle of Albers on August 21st. And they were backed up by the French.
All right.
So during the last week of August, the Allied pressure along a 68-mile front against the Germans was very heavy, and they were not letting up.
Wow.
Some German accounts said, quote, "Each day was spent in bloody fighting against an ever and again oncoming. Each day was spent in bloody fighting against an ever and again onstorming enemy, and nights passed without sleeping in retirements of new lines." So faced with all these advances, on September 2nd, the German Supreme Army Command issued orders to withdraw in the south to the Hindenburg Line. This ceded without a fight the salient, which was seized in April. Again, Ludendorff said, quote, "We have to admit the necessity to withdraw the entire front from the Scarpe to the Versailles."
That's got to be devastating. I mean,
Yeah.
you're fighting for so many years. You finally make huge advances, and then just, like 4 to 6 months later, they just vanish.
On September 10th, Hindenburg urged peace after losing 100,000 Germans as prisoner of war.
Wow.
He urged peace moves to Emperor Charles of Austria, and they went to the Netherlands and said, "Hey, guys, can you mediate this?"
Oh, yeah, I guess they were unaffected in this conflict. That makes sense. It's curious who the arbiters of peace treaties are in the various conflicts, but it's interesting because everybody's pursuing their own goals. Usually it's just territory at this point. But and I think that was revealed by when the Soviets took over in Russia. They published all the papers of, hey, here's all the top secret communications we got from everybody. And it was revealed to the population at large, yeah, we just want land. That's why we're fighting. And so that really did irk a lot of people, which probably fed into these anti-war protests. Like, hey,
of course,
we're dying, so you can have a little bit more land. Doesn't seem right.
So on September 14th, Austria sent a note to everybody who was fighting, and also the neutral countries, suggesting a meeting for peace talks on neutral soil. And on September 15th, Germany made a peace offer to Belgium.
Okay. That's,
Everybody told them to go to hell.
I guess, yeah. After
Mm.
you started this, right? Well, I guess not really. It was a domino effect of sorts.
So in September, the Allies advanced to the Hindenburg Line in the north and the center. The Germans continued to fight strong rearguard actions and launched numerous counterattacks, but positions and outposts of the line continued to fall, with the Allies alone, or with the British alone, taking 30,441 prisoners in just the last week of September.
Where do you put all these people? That's so many people that you capture.
In POW camps.
I guess that's
On September 24th, an assault by both the British and the French came to within 2 miles of St. Quentin. The Germans had now retreated to positions along or behind the Hindenburg Line.
where. So every time you say San Quentin, I think of the prison in California, and I know that's not what you're talking about. But for the sake of my understanding, and I suppose as an extension, the audience as well, San Quentin and the Hindenburg Line, where are those?
It is in France. And actually, I've been saying it wrong. St. Quentin.
Okay.
So let's see. The Hindenburg Line stretched from Arras all the way down through St. Quentin, through Chani, and then all the way down to the Seine River. Looks like the closest town down there is Soissons.
Okay.
So I believe it is in the entirety of France.
Yeah, that's deep. Yeah.
That's deep, deep in France. And this was, a massive amount of land that it covered.
Okay. Thanks for that. And then St. Quentin, you said, was along that line?
Yeah, it was about the midpoint.
Okay.
Down from the north to the south.
Cool. And so now the Germans are about a mile or two behind that line. This huge, I'm guessing it's a pretty strong defensive line for it to have a name.
Oh, yes. That was their main line of defense. All right. Let's see. So also on September 24th, the Supreme Army Command informed the leaders in Berlin that armistice talks were inevitable.
Yeah.
The final assault on the Hindenburg Line began with the Meuse-Argonne offensive. This was launched by French and American troops on September 26th. The next week, cooperating French and American units broke through in Champagne at the Battle of Blanc Mount Ridge, forcing the Germans off the commanding view that they had in the mountains and closing towards the Bulgarian frontier. On October 8th, they again pierced the line by British and Dominion troops at the Battle of Cambrai, and the German army had to shorten its front and use the Dutch frontier as an anchor to fight rearguard actions as they retreated towards Germany.
Oh boy, they're really hurting.
Yeah. So Bulgaria signed an armistice on September 29th. And Ludendorff suffered something like a breakdown.
I can imagine.
Yeah. It's now 100% evident to everybody that Germany could no longer mount a successful defense.
Uh-oh.
The collapse of the Balkans meant that Germany was about to lose its main supplies of oil and food. They had already used up their reserves. And at this point in time, the U.S. troops were arriving at a rate of 10,000 per day.
Wow.
Yeah. Fun fact, the Americans supplied more than 80% of Allied oil during the war.
Wow. So
with no shortages.
Well, this was, I think, the time frame where oil started being. That's when everybody started realizing, oh, this is the fuel of the future. Because there was still a transition point with coal at the beginning. Yeah, that's wild.
With all these mechanized machinery now on the battlefield, you gotta feed them.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because tanks
and they ate
appear.
oil.
Right. The British, anyway.
You got tanks. You got all these
Aircraft.
ships. Aircraft is now being introduced.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's like oil is very, very important.
Right.
So all these troop trucks and stuff coming on, all these supply trucks are now a thing.
Wow, that's right.
Horse and buggy are going away. They started the war with horse and buggy. They ended it with trucks.
Isn't that crazy? That's wild.
Yeah. So that's going to bring us to the German Revolution.
Oh.
Yeah. The news of Germany's defeat is now spreading throughout the German armed forces, and the threat of mutiny was very, very high. Admiral Reinhard Scheer and Ludendorff decided to launch a last attempt to restore the, quote, valor of the German Navy. In northern Germany, the German Revolution began at the end of October of 1918. Units of the German Navy refused to get underway for a last large-scale operation because they were like, we've lost. There's no reason for this crap. So this started an uprising, the Sailors' Revolt, which ensued in the naval ports of Wilhelmshaven and Kiel. And it pretty much spread across the entire country within days. And this led to the proclamation of a republic on November 9th, 1918.
Wow.
Shortly after this, the Kaiser abdicated.
Wow. That is. Imagine being in the Kaiser's shoes or Ludendorff, just like you kind of had the enemy on their heels, and now 9 months later, everything's just falling apart.
So now that the military is faltering and the widespread loss of confidence in the Kaiser, which made him abdicate and just running out of the country, Germany now moved towards surrender. Prince Maximilian of Baden took charge of a new government on October 3rd as Chancellor of Germany and to negotiate with the Allies. Negotiations with President who?
Woodrow Wilson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Began immediately in hope that he would offer better terms than the British and the French. Wilson demanded a constitutional monarchy and parliamentary control over the German military. There was no resistance when the Social Democrat Philipp Schneiderman on November 9th declared Germany to be a republic.
Yeah. Okay.
The Kaiser, the kings, and other hereditary rulers were all removed from power. And Wilhelm went to the Netherlands. So this is the end of Imperial Germany.
I'm just thinking if I'm a guy in the Netherlands and I'm sweeping my porch as, the Dutch do, and then I see the 1918 equivalent of a moving truck come in somebody's finally moving in next door. I wonder who it could be. Oh, it's the guy that initiated conflict on the continent. Ah, I'm gonna have.
This is World War I guy.
Yeah, I don't know if I want. Am I nice to him? Am I a jerk to him? How do I? I don't know. I don't want to welcome him. How do you handle? I don't know. Like they weren't technically I think Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia, but then right after that, Germany declares war on Belgium and France and really gets it going. So this is the guy.
If I was the guy sweeping my porch when I see the ousted German leader
Right.
moving in next door, I'd probably just grab my shovel, hit him over the head, and hand him over to the Americans.
I see. Nice. Okay. I'm glad we cleared that up.
That's just me personally.
Right. Speaking it as an American.
All right, so the collapse of the Central Powers came very swiftly after this. Bulgaria, as we said before, was the first to sign an armistice, which was the Armistice of Zika on September 29th, 1918. Wilhelm sent a telegram to the Bulgarian Tsar, who was...
I'm not too clear on Bulgarian monarchy. I'm going to guess... No, I'm not even going to guess. I would embarrass myself even more.
I was going to say, you already do, but yeah. Ferdinand the First.
Oh, okay. That's within the realm of guessing. I should have guessed.
Yeah. The telegram said, quote, disgraceful. 62,000 Serbs decided the war.
Kind of. I mean, there's really one guy, Gavrilo Princip, that monster kicked it all off. Thanks a lot, Black Hand.
Yeah, but isn't it interesting how Wilhelm is just blaming? He's like, it's not my fault. It's your guys' fault.
Oh, yeah. Political spin is as old as time itself.
So on October 24th, the Italians began a push that rapidly recovered territory lost to them after the Battle of... This was the Battle of Vito Veneto.
Whoa, that's a pretty rad name. Vito Veneto?
This marked the end of the Austro-Hungarian army as an effective fighting force. It also triggered the disintegration of the Austro-Hungarian Empire.
That's a pretty severe consequence.
Mm-hmm. During the last week of October, declarations of independence were made in Budapest, Prague, and Zagreb. On October 29th, the imperial authorities asked Italy for an armistice. But the Italians were like, we're on a roll.
Yeah.
We're going to keep going. They reached Tinto, Udine, and Trieste. On November 3rd, Austria-Hungary sent a flag of truce to ask for an armistice. The terms were arranged by telegraph with the Allied authorities in Paris, which were communicated to the Austrian commander and was accepted.
Wow.
So the armistice with Austria was signed in the Villa Giusti near Padua on November 3rd. Austria and Hungary signed separate armistice following the overthrow of the Habsburg monarchy.
Man, a lot of monarchs getting kicked to the curb here.
Yeah. In the following days, the Italian army occupied Isenbruck and all of Tyrol with over 20,000 soldiers.
Ooh.
On October 30th, the Ottoman Empire capitulated, signing the Armistice of Mudro. On November 11th at 0500, an armistice with Germany was signed in a railroad carriage at, do you know where? Very
Uh,
famous.
the railroad carriage in. I'm gonna guess The Hague.
No, Campaign.
Oh, that's right.
But you do know when, right?
Oh yeah, on the 11th hour, the 11th day of the 11th month.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they say.
At 1100 on November 11th, 1918. And the ceasefire was now in effect.
Wow, what? That's such a long and brutal war, and so many consequences. That's so many consequences.
During the 6 hours between the signing of the armistice and it taking effect, opposing armies on the Western Front began to withdraw from their positions. But fighting did continue along many areas of the front as commanders wanted to capture territory before the war ended. I guess they did not realize that the terms that were signed is what's going to be drawing the new lines and not what they take.
Right. But at the same time, it's kind of a credit to you as a commander. It's like, hey, at the end of the war, I took this city or this territory or whatever.
Yeah, but what about the guy who died after the armistice was signed?
That would be the worst. It's like, hey, we've got 6 hours. We technically can stop fighting now, but hey, let's roll the dice.
Yeah, that's got to feel really, really crappy.
Yeah, that's pointless.
Yeah. The occupation of the Rhineland took place after the armistice, and the occupying armies consisted of the Americans, the Belgians, the British, and the French.
Wow.
In November of 1918, the Allies had ample supplies of men and material to invade Germany. Yet, at the time of this, no Allied forces had crossed into Germany. The Western Front was still 450 miles from Berlin.
Well, I guess, yeah, once you sign an armistice, you gotta hopefully stick to it.
Yeah. The Kaiser's armies had retreated from the battlefield in good order, and these factors enabled Hindenburg and the other senior German leaders to spread the story that their armies had not really been defeated. This resulted in the stab in the back myth.
Okay, what is I guess I'm guessing this is something to do with blaming their allies, either Austria-Hungary or the Ottomans. It's like we were winning and they betrayed us and they negotiated a peace without us and now we're stuck.
Actually, this is going to play into World War II a bit. This was a conspiracy theory widely believed, and it really got going in right-wing circles in Germany. It was the belief that the German army did not lose World War I on the battlefield, but was instead betrayed by the civilians on the home front, especially the Jews and the Republicans.
I see.
Yeah, these two groups are the ones who overthrew the monarchy during the German Revolution.
Huh. That's so coincidental that they did that during the huge defeats of the German army. Man, there's always a scapegoat. That's
Yep. Yeah, it didn't have anything to do that the Allies had much more of a wealth pool that they could spend on the war.
oh right.
There was one estimate in 1913 dollars that they had spent $58 billion on the war,
Golly.
with the Central Powers only able to scrounge up $25 billion.
And what's interesting is a lot of the material they bought fuel, steel, all that stuff came from America back when they were neutral. And so it was this giant shift of wealth from these old European countries to America. And then America enters the war with all this money. Like
Yep.
it's just settled. Like it.
All right. So next time we're going to get into the aftermath of everything that just happened.
Oh my gosh.
And then we will start jumping into the specific theaters and breaking those down a little bit further.
Cool.
All right. So what we're going to do now is honor one of our fallen angels with the help of HeroCards.us. And today we're going to honor Captain Alphonse W. Davis. His hometown was Omaha, Nebraska. He served with the U.S. Army Air Corps, 332nd Fighter Group, 99th Fighter Squadron. He received the Distinguished Flying Cross, Distinguished Unit Citation, and the Purple Heart. His date of sacrifice was October 29th, 1944. Missing in action over the Adriatic Sea, Italy. Presumed dead October 30th, 1945. He was 25. Captain Alphonse W. Davis was born in Omaha, Nebraska on September 23rd, 1919. He graduated valedictorian at Technical High in March 1937 and won the first annual university scholarship awarded by the Alpha Eta chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi National Negro College Fraternity. He attended Oklahoma University, which is now the University of Nebraska, at Omaha.
Huh. That's wild.
Davis joined the Army Air Corps in 1942. From July of 1942 to March of 1943, he was an aviation cadet at Tuskegee Airfield, Alabama, specifically established to train the first black military aviators. Graduating at the top of his flight class, he became the first black military aviator from Omaha to receive his wings from Tuskegee Field. Captain Davis distinguished himself by receiving a medal for the highest rating in moving target marksmanship in his class. He was chosen to be squadron leader. Upon graduation, he was assigned to the 302nd Fighter Squadron in Italy. Later, he was attached to the group headquarters of the 332nd Fighter Group as the Assistant Group Operations Officer. The group operated with the 15th Air Force from May 1944 to April 1st, 1945, and began being engaged primarily to protecting bombers that struck such objectives as oil factories, refineries, airfields, and marshalling yards in Italy, France, Germany, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Austria, Hungary, Yugoslavia, Romania, Bulgaria, and Greece. The group also made strafing attacks on aerodromes, railroads, highways, bridges, river traffic, troop concentrations, radar facilities, power stations, and other targets. His final assignment was with the 99th Pursuit Squadron as squadron commander, flying a P-51 Mustang. His missions included reconnaissance and strategic flights, but mostly flew escorts for the large bomber squadrons stationed in Italy. During one of the missions, the P-51 Mustang fighter group he commanded destroyed 83 German aircraft.
Wow.
His final mission occurred on October 29, 1944, while on a special high reconnaissance mission to Munich, Germany. About 12 miles west of Salvatore Point, near the Gulf of Trieste, he was lost in overcast weather, never to be seen or heard from again. The War Department later issued a presumptive finding of death while missing in action on October 30th, 1945. Captain Davis's awards and decorations included the Purple Heart, Distinguished Flying Cross, and Distinguished Unit Citation. He was also credited with one aerial victory in the Mediterranean Theater of Operations on 16 July 1944. While Captain Davis's final resting place is unknown, he is memorialized on the tablets of the missing at Sicily, Rome American Cemetery. His hometown honored his service by naming a public school Alphonse W. Davis Middle School, and the Tuskegee Airmen's Nebraska chapter also bears his name. So, Captain Alphonse W. Davis, we thank you.
Thank you.
All right, XO, get us out of here.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for listening to us. And hopefully you've enjoyed this almost the end of the overview of World War One. If you have any questions or insight, or you just want to ask Dale more questions and it's like, hey, is Christoph as cool as we think he is? There's a way to do that.
He's not.
Let them email you, and then you can tell them individually. No. Okay, anyway. So you can do that by emailing the podcast. So the email address is usnavyhistorypodcast@gmail.com. We're also on X, formerly Twitter, or X-Twitter. Handle is @USNHistoryPod. And then we also have a Discord server. Why not say hello? You can find a link to that in the show notes. You can join. You can come to my defense, which I wouldn't mind at all. You can also say, hey, really enjoyed that. What can we talk about this particular battle or this particular ship or whatever? Shoot the moon. We can do it. Also, while you're in the neighborhood, and you're on your favorite listening app, why don't you rate and review us? And when you do, let us know what you think. Maybe you think we're great. Maybe you think we're the greatest. You could tell us, and you can tell the world, and then that helps us also get the word out, and more listeners happen, and then, you could be a part of making history, literally. So thanks.
And with that, we're going to wish you guys fair winds and following seas. Bye.
Bye-bye.